we have talked recently about some egregious things that CEOs and hiring managers have said right around the time of big time layoffs in their organization. We've heard from Intuit and how 1,050 of their workers out of the 1,800 that they laid off, they labeled as underperformers. We have read surveys where hiring managers have said that they cannot find qualified employees because they don't meet the exact definitions and exact requirements that they're looking for. And we've heard about Ultimate Kronos Group and how even though they're supposed to be a people-first software organization, workforce management organization, they fired about over actually 2,000 of their employees, and many of them being via FedEx mail or via a very cold and impersonal video conference call, or just locking them out or sending cold emails to people. And it's just really crazy out there. The other day, we specifically talked about Intel and how at that point they had planned on letting go of thousands of workers. Now we're seeing it's more about 15,000 people, which is a huge, massive layoff. And I want to dive more into this. It seemed to be a very popular topic, so I want to go more into what's going on with the Intel layoffs now that we've had a couple more days and now that we have a little bit more information. And the executives here are saying some crazy things, and I want to talk about all of it with you here today. Personally, I'm from Florida, so usually the companies I'm following the closest are there in Florida. So Ultimate was a place that I worked at. I know them very closely, and I'm also hearing more in my LinkedIn feed from Florida companies. But man, this has got to be the second or third article that we've gone over from a company that hires a lot of people in Oregon. So it seems like Oregon is really not a great state to be working in right now, especially if you're working at a big tech organization. I think previously we talked about maybe Nike and their layoffs in Oregon. So if you're in Oregon, let me know what's going on with the job market there, because it seems pretty scary right now. Our first article is from Oregon Live, and the headline is, Intel execs admit they were caught off guard by business downturn, triggering historic cuts. As always, all of my articles are listed down in the description below. If you want to go and read the whole article for yourself, I'm just going to talk about the key points that relate to what we're talking about today, but they're there if you want to read them in full. The article says, Intel executives told employees Thursday evening that the company's leaders genuinely believed they had hit bottom last year and begun climbing back. Years of poor results were behind the chip maker, they thought, and a sales rebound they had long planned for was finally at hand. The growth they anticipated this year didn't materialize, though, and Intel warned Thursday that it expects sales to fall even further during the current quarter. The company badly lags its rivals in the market for artificial intelligence technology and is losing market share in the PC and data center sectors. Intel responded Thursday by announcing its largest job cuts ever, eliminating 15,000 jobs and cutting $10 billion in spending. So when we talked about this, it was pretty fresh off the presses, and the rumors are going around that they were going to lay off thousands. Now, like I said in the opening, we have the exact number of 15,000 jobs cut and $10 billion in spending, including some compensation programs and perks that employees cherish as central to the company's identity. So maybe even if you're not getting let go, it seems like from what that article just said, you might be losing some of your benefits, some of your perks. I've never worked at Intel, so I don't know. I know a lot of companies maybe have gym access, or you get discounts around the community, or maybe they had really good health care and they went above and beyond with the things that they covered. I don't really know. I've lingered and I've waited too long on some of the hard decisions that we need to make, CEO Pat Gelsinger told employees on an all-company call after Intel announced the cutbacks. Shares plummeted 26% Friday, wiping out roughly $30 billion in market value. This news publication reviewed a recording of Thursday's employee call and spoke with 3 workers who listened in. Intel declined to comment on the specifics of its cost reduction strategy. Gelsinger and other executives said they had allowed their enthusiasm for the turnaround strategy they crafted to affect their thinking, and they acknowledged they had misjudged how quickly the company's sales and technology would improve. We were too optimistic on revenue, said Chief Financial Officer David Zinzer. We should have had better insights into where the business was going to go through the year. And I mean, isn't that one of the keys to sales, that you underpromise and overdeliver? I mean, if you're this optimistic when the past few years have been so bad, I mean, how does that make any sense? I mean, I get that you want to keep your job, you don't want the stock prices to plummet, but it doesn't seem like their enthusiasm, their hope, their optimism was grounded in any kind of reality. The cutbacks begin next week, with buyout and early retirement offers going out as early as Monday. Layoffs will follow soon after and proceed rapidly. Intel told employees it would notify all workers facing a layoff by early October. By November 15th, Intel plans to have eliminated 1 in 7 jobs across the company. I don't feel good today, Gelsinger said to employees on Thursday. I've agonized over today for the last 3-4 weeks. Many nights waking up at 2 a.m. because I know that what we do and how we are affecting you and your families, it matters. But if I was an Intel employee and I heard that, I would not care. I don't care how you've been agonizing. I'm sure that the CEO, if he stays in his job, isn't going to take a pay cut. And if he's eliminated from his job, I'm sure he's one of those who would get a golden parachute. I mean, he's probably got generational wealth already. And even though it seems like he's driving this company into the ground, even if he were to go on to somewhere else, he's probably got enough money for life. But even if he wants a new job, I'm sure he could easily get one just with that on his resume, especially on a smaller company, saying like, oh, well, he led, Intel. I mean, whether he did well or not, I guess that doesn't matter. He has the experience in the role. But yeah, I don't care about your sleepless nights. I care about me not having a job. You know, you should have had sleepless nights when you were leading the company and trying to figure out how to turn things around. Now it's too late. You're announcing layoffs. Now you want to be sad about it? No, I wouldn't feel any empathy for the CEO in the situation at all. The article goes on to say employees responded on Thursday evening's call by asking why they should trust Intel executives given how badly they misjudged the company's performance this year. Exactly. Gelsinger responded that he's sticking with his turnaround strategy with plans to move into contract manufacturing and expensive new factories. He said the company's long-term outlook is unchanged. Well, that's pretty interesting that you actually get to give feedback. A lot of times I've been in meetings like that, or I've heard about meetings like that, and it's completely one way. So I don't know if he was just fed a softball question he was able to just answer right away from someone he knew wasn't going to ask anything too out of line, but that's interesting. But investors are harboring similar doubts. Intel shares lost more than a quarter of their value Friday. The stock closed at $21.48, its lowest point in more than a decade. The company's grandiose visions increasingly appear at odds with a much more muted reality. While investors now have to wait to see if management can cut their way to dominance, Bernstein research analyst Stacey Ragson wrote in a note, Intel's comeback plan has driven the company right into a wall, wrote Ragson, who has taken a persistently critical view of the company's prospects. He said existential issues forced Intel to make Thursday's draconian cuts. But with those cutbacks, coupled with billions of dollars in federal subsidies and Thursday's decision to suspend Intel's dividend, Ragson said Intel will survive in some form to continue the fight. And here's why it's a big issue for those who live in Oregon. Intel is Oregon's largest corporate employer, with 23,000 people working in its factories, offices, and labs in Washington County. If Intel applies its layoffs equally across the company, it would eliminate more than 3,000 Oregon jobs. I get long gone are the days of having these big factories where in America we created our own cars, soda crackers, really anything like that. But even having manufacturing of like chips and hardware products, I mean, we really don't have anything. We've talked about John Deere going overseas. It's just like, what do we make here in America? I mean, what the heck is really going on? The cuts won't be applied equally though. Intel said a number of job losses will vary by department, pegged by how each business unit measures up against industry standards. Well, didn't we talk earlier in this article about how Intel's falling behind to its competitors and basically everywhere? So employees who remain will work for a diminished company with significantly reduced benefits. So here's what we were talking about. It's not just the layoffs of people completely losing their job, but even people who are not going to be laid off, who are not going to be fired at this time, are still going to be losing benefits. And here's the list of benefits that they're going to lose. Intel said it's reducing the value of an employee stock purchase program, restricting when employees buy stock through the program and thereby reducing the value of its discount. It's eliminating a sabbatical Intel offered employees after 4 years with the company and reducing the duration of its 7th year sabbatical by half to 4 weeks. Intel will no longer provide free fruit and beverages to employees. Come on, man, we can't get some fruit? You can't even get snacks? Isn't that one of the basic perks that they use to try to draw you into an office in the first place? But no more free fruit and beverages to employees, and won't have fitness coaches staffing its gyms. The company is permanently grounding the Intel Air Shuttle, which flies workers between its major sites in Hillsboro, Silicon Valley, and Arizona. The company stopped the flights last year, then resumed flying in April. The shuttle was especially prized by Oregon employees who sought to avoid the 30-mile drive across the metro area to Portland International Airport. The decision to permanently ground the shuttle, just 5 months after reinstating it, suggests that Intel executives didn't recognize the severity of their financial situation until very recently. We really aren't in a situation where we can continue to afford benefits and programs that are above market practice, Chief People Officer told employees. Oh, Chief People Officer, that's my least favorite title in an organization. Oh, so gross. Because they're not for the people. They just should call it the Chief Keep the Business Out of Trouble Officer, because their interest in HR, which is just the leader of the HR, fancy name for that, right? Because everyone's got to have better titles because no one gets paid anything anymore. But no, they are not the Chief People Officer. They are just there to cover the company's butt. They don't care about the people. So far, we're not hearing that any of the executives are getting a pay cut. And we're not hearing that any of the executives who are not being laid off are going to lose their benefits. I mean, I don't know if they got yachts or private planes or what kind of things they got going on for the executives at Intel, but we haven't heard about that yet, just from the benefits that the common employees are going to lose. The plunging share price hits workers as well as investors. Stock grants and similar incentives make up a major portion of Intel's employee compensation. Bank of America analyst warned Friday that Intel's cuts are so severe that they risk unintended competitive consequences as the company sheds personnel and scales back spending on new initiatives. On an afternoon call with Wall Street analysts, and then afterwards on the employee call, Intel executives cited the impact of lower profit margins on their decisions. They indicated that profits were squeezed when the company didn't meet its sales forecast. Intel forecast about $13 billion in sales during the current quarter, down 8% from a year ago, and a loss of 24 cents a share. The company said such results created an untenable situation that threatened Intel's future. Our costs are too high. Our margins are too low. We need to take bolder actions to address both, and we haven't seen our revenue grow as we would have hoped, Gelsinger said. We're a smaller revenue company than we were several years ago, and we haven't participated in these key growth markets like AI. And how, as some kind of software hardware organization, can you just admit like, oh, AI, the big thing sweeping the nation that everyone wants a piece of, that everyone's experimenting with everywhere across the globe. Oh, we're not going to participate in it. We're not interested in AI. We're not interested in the common trends of the industry. I mean, come on. Intel can't afford to keep spending the way it has, says the CFO. He said the company would end up buried in debt, given its disappointing revenue. With the massive cost reductions announced Thursday, they insisted that the company's future is secure. And I don't know about you, but aren't you just tired of, the government bailing out the worst companies? It seems like, back in 2008, a lot of companies were listed as too big to fail. Well, where are those companies now? Yeah, they get a bailout, but have they learned their lessons? Do they have stricter rules in place for the future? No, because they can just go and do anything. It hasn't led to like this boom in job growth, or it hasn't led to companies turning things around and having organizations that are always going to provide high-paying jobs for people. Hasn't led to high-paying jobs for the average American. No, it's just try to boost up shareholder value a little bit, try to boost the salaries of these executives, and it's just crazy. What's the point of all these bailouts to all these organizations if the first chance they get, they'll move things overseas, right? John Deere just straight up moved everything to Mexico. But how many of these companies are offshoring most of their jobs, all the jobs they can, to India, right? There should be some companies that want to hire Americans, keep Americans employed. But if all these companies just want to lower their costs as much as possible, even if that means laying off thousands to thousands of workers, or shipping the jobs overseas, or using artificial intelligence to eliminate people or to pay them less, why are these kind of companies bailed out and rewarded time after time? At what point are we going to learn our lesson and do something so that the average American has better access to quality jobs, as opposed to just making CEOs and shareholders richer? Then I have one more article for you today. Let's dive in and see what's different from our first article. Let's see what else we can learn. This article is from R&D World. I think it's rndworldonline.com, but the link is down in the description. And the headline is, Intel's latest layoffs of 15,000 are part of a recent pattern in tech. Intel's announcements of 15,000 layoffs is the latest in a wave of workforce reductions impacting the tech sector. Since 2020, major players like Amazon, 27,000, Meta, 21,000, and Microsoft, 14,000, have all significantly reduced their headcounts. Amazon's cuts have come in several waves, including 18,000 announced in January of 2023. Meta's reduction, part of CEO Mark Zuckerberg's year of efficiency, represent about 13% of its workforce. Even tech-focused car maker Tesla has cut approximately 10% of its staff, citing slowing EV sales and heightened competition. These trends reflect broader economic pressures, including higher interest rates and recessionary concerns. Intel's situation, however, are the largest in recent memory. The company's revenue has been on a downward trend over the past few years, with the most notable dip occurring between 2021 and 2023. Revenue fell from $79 billion to $54 billion, a decrease of roughly 31.4%. After reaching a peak of $79 billion in 2021, Intel's revenue fell to $63 billion in 2022 and further dropped to $54 billion in 2023. This slide represents a drop of roughly 31.4% in just 2 years. In 2023, the company's revenue of $54.2 billion was roughly in line with unadjusted 2015 levels, $55.4 billion. In addition to the layoffs, Intel has identified several areas for cost savings, including reducing operating expenses, OPEX, to approximately $20 billion in 2024, and further to $17.5 billion in 2025. The company also plans to cut capital expenditures, CapEx, by more than 20% from its initial plan, targeting a range of $25 to $27 billion in 2024. Additionally, Intel aims to generate around $1 billion in savings from non-variable costs of sales in 2025. Additionally, the company has decided to suspend dividend payments. Despite the cuts, Intel is maintaining its commitment to investing in key growth areas, particularly AI. Specific focus areas include AI PCs and AI-focused server products. It will also accelerate the ramp of Core Ultra AI CPUs and advanced process technology, with the 5 nodes in 4 years plan on track. Finally, the company said it intends to expand foundry services. We previously signaled that our investments will define and drive the AI PC category with pressure margins in the near term, said CEO Gelsinger, stated in an earnings call. We believe the trade-offs are worth it. The AI PC will grow from less than 10% of the market today to greater than 50% in 2026. And as one of those employees said on the conference call, how can we believe anything you said? Because you just already admitted that you were way too optimistic. So are you way too optimistic now? How are we supposed to believe facts from fiction when you don't have any metrics, you don't have any numbers, you don't have any reason to believe you or to really invest in the company going forward until they actually start proving things? Focus on efficiency. The new operating model aims to allow for more effective innovation with fewer resources. Strategic prioritization. Key areas like AI, advanced manufacturing processes, and foundry services are protected from cuts. Process technology advancements. Intel remains committed to its 5 nodes in 4 years plan, with Gelsinger noting in an earnings call, our Intel 18A, we released a 1.0 PDK last month and are on track to be manufacturing ready by the end of this year with production wafer start volumes in first half 2025. Product roadmap. Ongoing innovation in core product lines with upcoming products like Lunar Lake, which Gelsinger highlighted as our next generation AI PC, which achieved production release ahead of schedule in July, will be the next industry-wide catalyst for device refresh. And okay, you delivered it on time, but what was the quality? Was it successful? Did it do everything it needed to do? Did it have a bunch of bugs? Did it have a bunch of issues? Were people upset about it after it was released? I mean, just deploying something isn't good enough. I mean, anyone knows anything about software knows, it's got to work. It can't just exist. Impact on innovation and competitiveness. Intel leadership has addressed concerns about the potential impact on innovation, emphasizing their continued commitment to R&D and strategic prioritization. As Gelsinger said, we remain confident that we have and will continue to make the investments needed to drive long-term shareholder value, and we view cost discipline as the compass that drives effective execution, helping teams stay on track to both prioritize and achieve measurable results. While the GPU market has been a historic traffic driver for rival NVIDIA, Intel's late 2022 entry into the discrete graphics card market with its Arc lineup was plagued by early software glitches despite capable hardware. Yeah, once again, delivering something is not enough. Does it have glitches? Does it have issues? While the firm made strides to address these problems with driver updates, the early performance hiccups were a drag on consumer confidence. Consequently, sales remained sluggish despite competitive pricing and improved performance. So that's the latest with Intel, and I'll continue to update you on any major advancements or major updates with it. But these executives seem to just be incompetent. It's one thing to just sit back and for people to think you're an idiot than to open up your mouth and remove all doubt. Because every time these guys release a statement, it's like nonsense, right? We're laying off thousands of people, but it's because they're underperformers. Well, they were just hanging around collecting a paycheck and that was okay? Oh, well, we really were surprised by the downturn. It's like you've been doing poorly for years and years and years. Why are you surprised? You're just not paying attention? So yeah, unfortunately, the people at the helm of a lot of these major organizations, especially in tech, are just running these companies into the ground. And while they may have nightless sleeps, and I'll cry a bunch of tears for them, trust me, it's just like, it stinks because as a worker, you have to kind of put your career into the hands of these employers. And these are the people that the board of directors, the shareholders, whoever is making these decisions, are putting in place. This is the best that we can absolutely do. For someone to be able to lead a company into the ground for years and years and years, and then he doesn't even suffer, he doesn't pay the piper. It's just thousands of people who have nothing to do with that losing their jobs, who are working hard, who are doing what they're required to do and doing the best job they can. They just suffer and then they lose their jobs because of someone else's bad management while they stick around and can continue to be optimistic for the future. It's just really, really terrible. And I just hope that Intel will make the right decision, maybe get a really good executive to lead the ship and can bring things into a positive direction, because America needs some companies that are hiring people and then that actually have a real positive outlook on the future, not just wishful thinking. Talk to you later.